Hello everyone. How are you all today? Well, that's quite exciting after lunch and yeah. Just a quick question. How many have you attended Testing Talk conference today? Please raise your hands. How many have you attended Testing Talks conference today? Please raise your hands. Say, my testing failed. This is a quick audience attention check.
They don't exist.
See, that's where the environment problems keep coming, and that inspires the inspector, which Jed has given today. Check your environment first before you run your tests. So I quickly set up my notebook. So today I'm going to give a quick overview of automation testing of REST API using Mocha. As you have seen, like today, like most of the frameworks are all the JavaScript based frameworks, which is quite good actually. And it's quite interesting for me as well, like to think like we're from Aram's talk as well, to just look for different aspects of different frameworks, what fits into the project and what are the pros and cons. It's quite informative actually. Sweet, spring, get excited. Springtime carnival. So, and yeah, I'm quite waiting for the upcoming public holiday, Melbourne Cup. Yay. If anyone out of Victoria State, sorry for that. Yeah, it's a public holiday for us. Okay. Coming back to my yeah.
I see the problem. It's a Mac.
Yeah, it's always been. Okay, so let me give a quick overview of what we'll be covering today. Am I enough audible? Okay. Let's give a quick intro. We're going to be SPAPO, and I'll be starting with the basic, very basic things like what is REST API and the basic HTTP methods.
Could you turn the thing off, please?
Right. How about now? Yeah. Pretty much basic things like what are HTTP methods and what is the basic request and response. And we'll get started with Mocha and what are the tools and environment we'll be using. We'll have a demo and I'll be showing like what we have done, the API automation, and yeah, we'll have some time for Q&A as well. Myself, Ashwin, I've been working in TAPCO from past 2 years. I've been working for about like 15 years, worked across like many organizations, across many domains, with systems and technology labs from IBM and working with pharmaceutical background, banking products, emergency services products, telecom products, and now the quite interesting gambling products as well, which is quite entertaining actually. Yeah, as part of volunteering, when I joined IBM, I was quite passionate on the university relationship program. So I've been working as a IBM university relationship manager, quite engaging with the students and see like what the latest technologies are upcoming and keep them motivated and get the speakers. And recently I was pretty much amazed with the career mentoring program that's been running by RMIT University. It's a pretty good program actually, which I started like 3 months back. You get assigned a mentee, you just need to inspire them, spend like 1 hour per month. So you'll need to spend like 3 months. And it's quite interesting like how you can inspire the upcoming next generation industry professionals. I would encourage to just take a look on that, and it's pretty good. As part of my continuous learning, security is my key interest nowadays. So I just started a 6-month course from Stanford University, which I might love to share my things in the next year probably. and I'm already getting scared. Like it's been three months to see like what's been happening and how secure. Well, I learned the first like to secure myself first, and like take a look at the client next. So if I'm able to secure myself, like yeah, let's see things like how you are. And personally, yeah, these are my crazy things to test my fear factor. And yeah, happy to share my fear offline as well. Who is Tabcorp? Please raise your hands like who have heard of Tabcorp? Okay, it's more like 70%. No worries, I'll be going through major business units. So we have engineering and media, lotteries and Keno, and gaming services. And I work in lotteries and Keno business unit where I completely own Keno digital product. And we have a Tabcorp booth outside. And if you're really keen like to know like more about the fantastic products, and I think there's an amazing game, Keno Head Hotels. I've just been realizing like how it's been running. It's pretty good. Please try that as well. And if you have any queries, please reach out to Tabcorp booth. What is REST API? So before getting onto things like, just want to have a quick poll, like how many of you currently working in API testing at the moment? Right. Can I see your hands? Yeah, pretty much 50, 60. That's the benefit of others as well. Like I just want to get scratched the basics actually to see like what is exactly the API and get started on how we manually test it and how we really automate that. So what is API? So you can just Google it. It's application programming interface. But what is that? And it's not a new thing. Nowadays it's been like quite interesting. Like API testing, like it's like much for QA, and it's not the new thing that's been around. It's already been there, like a web services from 2000, which Microsoft has started. But what keeps growing more towards API? The way the digital transformation happening, the way the smartphones are picking it up. Back while I was working in IBM in 2006, like, so I was being involved in many different products, like an API. It was pretty nascent stage. And currently, if you take a look, actually, if you name it and you just inspect it, it's all APIs behind the screen. It's all because of like digital platforms. Customer need to access from anywhere, as well. Like they can access from mobile, they can access from desktop, they can access from mobile web, and even to engage like more customer experience for especially for gaming, entertainment industry. We need to encourage to terminals as well. So these are the key points, like customer access to information is keep growing from various devices and even upcoming IoT devices. That's the next trend as well. So it's all leading to the key backend development going in the APIs. So what is REST? So it's a representational state transfer. So it's more like it's a design pattern, like how to develop APIs. So I'll not be touching like what are the key constraints and all. So when a REST API is called, like the server will transfer the representation of state of it. So what is actually the state? The state can be in a JSON or XML or HTML format. When you look for XML, the SOAPs. Have anyone worked with SOAP? Quite very few actually. Microsoft Shop. Yeah. How many of you are working with the REST API? Mostly, yeah, pretty good. And this is the Keno API, which I have demonstrated. It's a website on the left, and it is an iOS app which accessing the same winners page, and with the same API at the back. And for this, actually, it uses Get API. Before saying like what is Get and all, like it's, so again coming back to the basic API, it's more like to have a communication between the programs in the online, and when it comes to online, like HTTP is the key protocol, and that's the reason actually if you see an API calls, like it would be HTTP, And we have basic HTTP methods, which we'll be covering in the demo today. These are the basic 5 get, post, put, patch, delete, which basically represents the basic code operations of a database correlating to. And we have like some more HTTP methods, but these are the quite useful ones, which are becoming of demo today. And the get API is more like a read operation, and the post is more like a create operation. And put and patch, they are an update operation. But what's the basic difference is that for put operation, it just overrides the entire resource of it. And patch, it just modifies only a certain specific part of the resource. That's a key difference between these two. And delete, as it says, like it just deletes the resource. So whenever you talk about API, there will be a request and there is a response. And what is the request contain in general? So this is a quick snapshot from a Postman to just show like what is involved much more to the context of the request. So we need a HTTP method where you can see the first highlighted one, post. So that's a HTTP method you can see from there. And the next thing you need an endpoint. And endpoint is the one like which there are like 2 parts in it. One is the host URL, and the next one is the route, how the API, whatever the API you're using it. And the next one is the header. It's not visible here. Probably when I get to the using the APIs, I'll be showing like what's been involved in the headers. And the body, SQL body. So you can see there's something like that's the format in the body. It's more like when you talk about, so it's been called as like a payloads as well. So whenever a developer asks for the payload, what's been sending and what's been coming back, yeah, that's a payload. And what's the response? So response, it contains body, and the key thing is the HTTP status codes. That's the status code which defines like how your API has responded to the resource what you have sent through. And here are the basic response codes, which is what you'll be looking at. Like anything response code starts with 1 or quite informational related ones. Anything with 2. These are the key things which represent the success format. For instance, if you have seen that 201 created, that's more of a success response on creation. And anything starting with 3, it's a redirection. And 4 and 5 are the key things which developer loves to know like what exactly is happening, like if anything coming back to the 4, starting with 4 representing the client error, or anything starting with the 5 which is a server error kind of. And it's not that just only whoever works in API testing, they need to know the API. So every QA needs to know like what is behind the API, and even when you do a UI testing, just we need to ensure like how's the behavior. So the key thing is like on the maintenance or fixing any of the issue, something picking up the UI, it's like a ball game. Throw it to UI front end, no it's not my, give it to back end, and because it balls up. So that's where like we will play a vital role like to see like what's happening in the API side and ensure like who to reach out first, and that will ensure like quick fix as well. Yay, getting started with Mocha. It's a cool topic we had today, and I think in some of the talk we have already seen like Mocha. So it is a feature-rich JavaScript framework which runs on Node.js. And why should I automate a REST API using Mocha? So there is no hard and fast rule like you have to use Mocha. It all depends on like how your API services are developed. For instance, like so the reason we have used is like our API is being developed is in REST API and then Node.js. So when it's on Node.js, this is the right fit you can use. And even it's been even when it comes to any of the like a web services, SOAP UI, that's where like we have different tools on that. And in most of the talks today, we have pretty much seen the similar ones, describe and it. But what's the basic thing? How many of you are using Cucumber? That's quite a big turn up. So I can correlate something related to that. So describe is more like a feature, and it is more like a scenario, how you define in the test. And even it has a hooks before each, after and after each as well. And it has a built-in retries and timeout factor as well. And you can have an inclusive test and then you can exclusive test how to run that. So we'll be covering most of the things what we have here. And coming to tools and environment, so we need to have our Node.js, so which I may not be installing. That might take like more time. So I'm assuming like it's been available. And I will get started. Still, I will test my fear factor with the Wi-Fi what we have. We'll try to install Mocha and the other NPM modules, Mocha, Chart, Supertest, and the remix says awesome. We'll see like what is that awesome, Mocha awesome. And we'll be using Postman to quickly run through like what I'll be using for manual testing. And I have a fake API server running in local, so I'll be going through that. And we'll be using Visual Studio Code and the terminal. How many of you are working in JavaScript actually? That's the key thing. So so what I'll be doing is like I'll be creating from the scratch. So I'll try to provide as much basic. So you need not to have advanced level. Mocha itself has like all the inbuilt-in methods. You just need to know like how to use those methods, and yeah. And we will see like how we can write pretty much covering all these HTTP methods now. Okay, let's get on to the demo now. So I have a local fake API server. I'm just starting it. I have a simple db.json file. Is it visible for everyone? How about at the last? Yeah, sweet. Thanks. So the API is running in local. And this is the sample API which is running in the background. So I'll be doing a quick GET request. If you see, these are the HTTP methods which you have, and we'll be using GET. And this is the endpoint. You see, this is in general it's a host URL, and after that it's a route. And coming to headers, actually, so in general, headers, it's more of a key value pairs, what an API restricts to have to pass on. So I'll be using that in the next request. That's where like we'll be using it. And in general, GET request doesn't has any body or headers. So we just need a HTTP method and a straightforward the endpoint URL. Let me send that. So these are the, so I can just show you like what's been in. So it has just something like a JSON payload, a db.json, and I have a list of artifacts what needs to be in, and I'm just playing around on that. Okay, let me get started on Mocha. Just creating a new directory. Just changing the directory to that. Ensuring there are no files in it. Let's get started on that. Okay, so you would have already seen in some of the talks like the key file, the package.json. That's where like we define all the dependency and what are the modules we use in general. So I will get started with that. Package.json. Just provide any name. Just providing initial version. You can define the scripts where they are. Just giving out in the test. That's where we can run the Mocha from there. And next, this is the key one, which is the dev dependencies. So this is where, like, if you open the package.json file, that's where any of the project you can start with to see like what are the dev dependencies it has in it. And in today's demo, I'll be installing Mocha. To npm install. So there are two ways to install do a npm install in general. If you want to do it globally, you can use -g. If not, always better to use like a dev dependency so that it is more config to the project level. Okay, before it installs, let me check it here. So you can see like it's automatically populating it. So when you do a npm install, that's the beauty of the package.json file here, and it's more on the Node.js related. So you install it whatever the package you want, and it automatically comes up on the dev dependency in the package.json. And let me install the other modules which we'll be using further. And we'll be using Ram's favorite session library, Chai. And we will have super test. So this is a key module which drives the API, sending out the communication of the different API request and response. And there is an awesome reporting module which is Mocha Awesome. As you can see, all the dev dependencies, as you keep install, like it keeps coming up automatically. So now I got the package.json, and you can see automatically these files are generated. Package log JSON file, and it just keeps track of all the dependencies inside each module, whatever we have installed. So we need not do anything on that. It is automatically generated based on installation. And if you see the node modules, these are all the installation we have done. Mocha, and you have a Mocha Awesome report here, and you have Chai library, and you have a super test. So it's all ready to go. So we have all the modules required installed. We got the package.json. And let me create, if you remember, actually we have referenced a test folder in the scripts. Oops, I was creating an error folder. should be under parent level. Yeah, that's the folder. So this is where like we are referring here. You see on the scripts. So all my tests will be going on the test folder here. So let me create a new file. So back the fake API is returning some media post related. So just say like media post test cheers. And as I said, like we need a feature and a scenario definition which goes with the describe and it methods. And it takes like 2 parameters in general. One, you can define what the feature is. Let's say it's social media post. Define it. You can say scenario 1, get request demo, and usually the second one actually it's more of a callback parameter. In API, when you send a request, it's always good to wait for the response to come back, and that's where we will be adding a callback, and we'll be adding a done here. So we got the basic structure. Let's reuse, don't invent the wheel. Actually, we already have all the libraries. Let's start using them. I'm just defining initial variable constant. In JavaScript, always avoid using var as per ES6 standard. So if you're not changing any reference to your variable, always define as a constant. If not, if it's varying, just use let to it. So for now, I'm just using constant, creating a parameter request. The way you import any module, so you need to say like require, and request is more, as I said, like we'll be using supertest. And actually I'm using easy path here in supertest. You can just define, since it's been just a demo URL, I can just get the host URL defined here straightforward. So this is the same thing which I'm running it here. You see in the fake API. So pretty much I'm using this as an example. First one. Okay, before I use this, let's get another import another module, which is quite good for association library. Defining expect, get it chai. Let's start utilizing the supertest. What cool feature it has. So you just have a request. Since we have seen before in the manual the get request, we got a response back. Let's automate that. So request, it has all the HTTP methods. So you just need to key in and get all the request of if it's a get method or put. As you can see, like as I key in, it started showing up like what HTTP methods I'm expecting here. So let's get the get request here. And in the get request, we have, as we have already defined the host URL here, the key part is like to define the route. and it's force. As you can see, I got the host URL reference from request parameter, and I'm defining the routes pose here. And as I said, like get request doesn't need in general headers or body inside it. So if we need, you need to call further methods, which we'll be covering in the next requests. So I'm just giving get, and once it's done, you can just call the end. So I'm just adding a function here like error and response. So this is more for tracking like how the response is coming back, and you can utilize the whole response, like what you want to assert against. And this is where we provide the status code. For instance, just provide for the moment. For instance, just expecting this to fail. So we use the command npm test to run the test. So it picks up the test. Oopsie. Okay, so here the two key things actually. The reason I use only modules. So you need to use the entire module. So if you want to use only a specific artifact which we want to use, you can always define that. So it doesn't reference well before. There you go. So it's providing 200 response as expected, but I was put it in the test like it's a 404 related. There you go. Our first test passed, and this is the response message I'm logging from the console. Like, it's always good to log the responses in general when you do a API automation. It's for better ease of troubleshooting as well. Okay, copy and paste are the best features I love in any operating system. I'll start utilizing it as fast as we can. Give you time for Q&A session. Okay, let me show you manually. So I'll be showing you the put and patch. As I informed in the basic key difference is put will be just overwriting like a new resource, and it patch, it just partially modifies whatever we have. Let me compare before I update it. If you can see, I'm just using ID4 here. So it's gonna update this portion which has a ID4, and I'm sending a request only for the title to update. And let's see how it behaves. There you go. So it comes back. ID always comes back from the fake API. Let's see the difference. So we have a ID and user ID demo 4, and the title Calabash Android. I just updated in the body to come up with a Espresso POC. And let's do a GET request. There you go. As you can see, it has completely overwritten the resource. What happened to the user ID demo 4? So we haven't touched anything on that. That's because of the HTTP method put does that. It just overrides the whole resource irrespective of whatever you provide. It treats like a new creation kind of thing. It just updates the whole specific resource. And let's see how it behaves for patch requests. Now I'm playing up with the ID5. Let's look at this. Calabash iOS ID5, and look at, we have a user ID, we have a demo file. And I'm trying to update only the title, and it's same, like you can see the HTTP methods coming over here, and the basic endpoint URL, and this is the route, and this is the body. And one thing which I said, like I'll be covering the headers. So headers are nothing but the key value pairs. So it's more like how the API has been developed. It restricts to provide like certain key value pairs. It can be, so for instance, this API is expecting the content tag to be only for the JSON format. If you provide any other format, it doesn't like that. And for authentication or any other security measures, if you want to pass the tokens or something, that's where like you just provide the token and provide the value of that. So those are the key things like that comes up in headers. And let me execute this patch request, and look at that. So it just updated the title. It has come back with its own ID, and on top of it, it has come back with the user ID demo 5 as well. Let me check the get response as well, what it does. So just look at this, the comparison between 4 and 5. In 4, the user ID is gone, and in 5, it's retained its own whatever the artifacts it has, and it just updated the title. So that's a partial update. And let's automate this one as well. Using put, and this is post, and I'm using ID4. Expecting status code of it. So let's stick to status codes for now. Okay, so I would like to add one more thing here. As I have shown you in the slide about the Mocha features, it has inclusive and exclusive tests as well. So how to use the inclusive test feature? So we have a only method where if you want to run only this specific scenario, you just key in like wherever it has, like say dot only, and let me update this console log. Yeah. Let's run this again. There you go. So it has run only scenario 2 if you have seen that. And it's gone through as well. And it has give back the response. Remove only part, just returning to the next test. Let's use patch and use the method which is already there for the super test module, and this time I'm using 5. Have anyone pointed out what I have done in the last automation test? What's that? Sorry.
It's the body.
Oh, this is the put. We already used put. We have seen the, let me go back to the manual one, the Postman. So this has headers as well as body. We didn't send anything. The test is green. Yay, it's green. But it's not a valid test. Let's pick it up now. So we got a method, and wherever you need headers, use a set method. and let me copy the key value pairs. So let me run that test again. If you can see, the response has come back with ID4. So it means like it hasn't updated what we are looking for to just update the title, right? And use npm test run again. There you go. Now you have the title as well as what proper ID we are updating as well. And let's do the patch scenario now. So I'll be using the same thing here. For patch, it requires setting headers, and this time we're using a different one, which is XAUI. This is the ID. We're using patch method. Just updating the response here. Running the, okay, let me see. Yeah, I don't have it not only. Let me skip that. I'm just trying to run only this test. Sweet, there you go. Third one. And the next set of tests are the post and delete, which is more like a create and delete kind of. Let's see the manual thing. As I said here with the HTTP methods, which is post, endpoint URL, same thing, headers, same content type, which accepts the certain format, and body. I'm just adding a new thing with a new title, best agile test same, and ID6, and user ID I'm giving demo 6. And just sending the request. And this time you can see the status code. This is a key factor for any response to ensure like what's the status of it. So that's the first key assertion. We need to take a look whether the response has been really successful or not. If not, like to report to the developer what's been on the API side. And as you can see, the response body has come back. Whatever we have given, it's been created. And let's check the GET request again if it has really added or not. As you can see, the last one is the 6, ID 6, and the same title and the user ID. And let's have a test deleting the same resource what we have created before. Just same HTTP method here, select the delete, and it's the same endpoint, just we are playing up with ID 6 now, which we have created. And as same as get, it doesn't require headers or body. So this is most an expensive operation if you are not doing the right thing. Yeah, so there you go. That's the status, and the response body is empty. And let's check it has really deleted a resource or not. Yeah, there you go. There's no more ID6 related artifact. And let's automate the same thing now. So I'm adding both at the same time to speed it up. Scenario 4, post request. Is the post method from supertest. Just want to ensure the endpoint URL is right. Same setting headers, and this time I'm sending the payload what I have used manually here. Fetch response. Yep. Let's change this. Is a delete. We are using delete method from supertest module, and I'm referring the same ID6 which we have deleted before. And as I said, delete doesn't require any setting headers or setting the body. Let me run this test together. Same command, npm test, expected 201. Okay, yeah, that's true. So if you have seen the response of post, whenever a new resource is created, it comes back with the status 201. As we had like 200 in the expected response, it throws back with an error like that's not expected. But the right status code is 201. Let me run it again. There you go. So we have just run the whole thing. It's pretty good. And now going back to hooks. So before going back to hooks, I keep saying awesome, and I haven't shown you actually what's the Mocha awesome tip. So we just need to create a simple file. Just for the reporter, whatever we're using. Let me take out the inclusive test so that we can run all together. There you go. Doesn't like something. I think it's oops. I think I have zoomed a lot. Yeah. Sorry, I was at the maximum zoom here. Probably would have seen the screen. Yep, there you go. Look at that. It's quite fancy, isn't it? Just one file, and you need not to reinvent the wheel, and you get all things done. And let's see failure as well. Just want to, yeah. Okay. So is it everything fine, or I have some more slides like what we have done in APO, everything keeping time and constraint. Can we go to the slides back what we have achieved? Yeah, sure. So here you go. On the left, you can see this is a Slack notification where every day the end-to-end API tests keep running at 10 a.m. and to see, oh yeah, daylight savings. You can see 11 a.m. So it keeps starting at 10 o'clock, 11 now, and it takes about like less than 15 minutes. Sometimes it takes about 10 or 11, 13. Yeah, depending on the networking, and it's running entirely on the environment. And for all of our UI tests, we run in the mock server, which Cam will be talking about in the best practices as well. And so that's the statics. You can see the test framework, like how we have effectively using it here. So restricting the UI to a UI level and all the backend entities. So what's happening in end-to-end tests? So these are running like a user logging in from a website or logging in from an iOS app or even logging from an Android app. So it behaves all these different scenarios. And apart from it, is a mini game, as you have seen before. So it's quite simple, but when it comes to business rules and jurisdictions, it's quite complex. And apart from it, even on the specific platforms, and again, it's more of a regulated, related, and all those tells all those jurisdictional, all the complex business rules, everything gets done and that's it in less than 15 minutes. As you can see, it's been fed, so that's how like we will be know like how environment is to before we get started to start testing anything. So that's a clean state we check, and that's build pipeline from build type, which runs every day. And yeah, as I said, like it covers pretty much all the business rules on that. Just want to quick best practices. As I've said for the last 2 years, always log the API requests and responses, as I said before as well. It's really is for troubleshooting like what's been happening when something is not running. And for best formatting, like always use ESLint. You can see my formatting how it is. It's not that great. So if you use that, it would be pretty good. And always Dockerize and schedule a daily run on the environment. It's not a daily run, do as much as you want. It's just like a 15-minute thing. So yeah, that's a key success we had. And send notifications immediately, you know, like what's been happening on the environment. And Mocha-Share, this is a key module which I haven't used much, but this is quite really helpful when it comes to automation. Because this module using this, like if there is any common functionality you're using in the same test, so you can use this, so you provide like everything in the Mocha-Share defined structure. How, for instance, like you need to log in for some of the API response, so you just reuse that login response right once and reuse that. So it's pretty quite useful. And as security is playing a key interest for me, like I would like to point this out. Always scan for vulnerabilities for NPM modules. Yeah, it's open source. We have all the flexibility. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. At the same point, we don't want all the vulnerabilities with providing all the features as well. So always log the NPM audit in your CI. So don't wait for your pen tester, the external security team, whoever does that. So before even the developer checks in, by the time you picks up for testing, you can go and look into the build guide and see like what has been pushed, and if there's any library, you can see the NPM vulnerabilities. So you can't see much detail into it unless you do an NPM audit. So that will list out the actual key vulnerabilities. So initial thing, it just says like these are the key number of vulnerabilities, these many critical, these many. I can just since I'm running out of time. So whenever you do an NPM install, you get a basic saying like there are no vulnerabilities. If there are vulnerabilities, these are many high, like a 2 high or 1 critical, but it doesn't spit like what exactly into it and what are the, and good part in NPM audit, it just provides remediation factor as well. It just provides like which module is vulnerable and what is the impact of it and how you can remediate it as well. That's a pretty good part which I like that. And we are using a SNCC tool, so it just runs on any of the NPM modules, and so we just need to configure in the build guide or any of the CI pipeline you're using. So you just, so wherever you go, when you pick up the card or when you start testing, you can get all the security bugs right at the first time itself, rather than spending much time for the testing and getting back security, pushing back like fix your code. So shift to the left, which we have a panel talk as well. So that is a key thing actually, even before you start testing, you know like what the vulnerable code is going in. So yeah, those are the best practices which we had. And I have provided the references which I have used for today's demo. Yeah. Back to questions.
You showed Postman tool in between. Why don't we use Postman for automation testing on this workload?
Pretty good question actually. That's definitely writing to us. So let's imagine. So whenever we do automation, always keep maintenance in mind. So it's good like if you have like a basic APIs, like a small, like maybe 100 or entry points or certain limited thing is fine. So if you can see like if you have exported the API file, it's just a JSON file. So if you keep adding more and more tests and microservices, you end up with 150 microservices, and we write end-to-end tests. And if there is any change coming up, look at the impact on the maintenance. It's quite tough. So there is no, it's like put it in this way, like back in mainframes days, like look at the procedural programming and how about applying the OOPS concepts. So if you look at that fashion, yeah, Mocha or any of the automation framework, yeah, it's the best thing. Yeah.
So in the beginning we discussed like we have Node.js application, and that's why we chose Mocha. So my question is like, so are these two, like our test code and our application code, like these are in the same repo or in the same code base?
Ideally, we would like to have the same repo,
Okay.
because I'd like to add a point to that.
Mm-hmm.
As part of Shift Left, whenever there is a code review, you will get access to it, you know what the changes are, and you will have, before even getting to hand, like you have a better overview.
Yeah, agree. And if these are like different, these are like in different code bases, then how like choosing Mocha.js with Node.js is like relevant? Because now if these are like a part of different code bases, then you can choose anything like rest assured,
Well,
XYZ framework.
yeah, definitely agree. So I don't, as I said, there is no hard and fast set rule. The reason we are using this is like Mocha. So even for writing unit tests and integration tests by developer, they use Mocha as well. And if you really go with the same thing, let's again keep maintenance in mind always actually. So and also like how Aram helped me. So they always like dev and QA work together, you know. Right?
But in the same case, if we
Yeah.
talk about unit test cases, that must be part of our code base, application code base,
Yeah.
not the part of our integration framework that we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, the maintenance is same thing if you will choose like some other framework.
Yeah, as I said, it's not a hard and fast set rule actually. You can always opt for the other one, but as I said, actually, it's always good to have in sync. And Mocha has like already inbuilt so many things, like what you want to reinvent the wheel and use the other ones, and always the known issues that developers have already been facing, like how you can improve your code. Rather than spending more on the programming part, let's utilize the key modules. So let's not get into the white box thing, kind of just reuse the methods, whatever we have, flexibility.
Actually, I have one more question that is like on the second last slide.
Yeah.
If you can open that and the last one before this. Yeah. In this, we are talking about API automation in Kernel, and we are talking about E2E. So
Yeah.
are we talking about like actual like UI test cases or API test cases here?
So these are API. That's a very good question. And also you're saying like whether it has to be tied up in the same source code base or not. When it comes to microservices, obviously they need not to be in the same repo. They will be entitling in the different repos. It's the same situation here. So API test is a different entire repo. and you have different repos for each and API services. And the way the API tests end to end, so whatever the test how you have in the UI test level, from end to end kind of, so it's more doing from the API level. Let's log in like.
Because the last line is little confusing for me. Coverage of business rules from all platforms, iOS, Android, and web.
Yeah.
So when we talk about API, so it's like platform independent.
The API, but still API need to recognize right from where the request is going through, whether it's coming from web or it's coming from
It's
iOS.
just a kind of parameter, but the same API is like supposed to be used on iOS, Android, web, or any other platform.
Right. So if the features are same and everything, you need not to use that. But if there are different business rules, as I said, there are certain key constraints for Android app, there are key constraints for iOS, there are key constraints for web. When you have certain things, that's the key reason why we have differentiated that.
All right, let's give Aswin a huge round of applause.